Welcome to the Front Porch Podcast.
Front Porch Podcast.
Who gives a fuck?
I don't know. I think it's like 5 or 6 now. But I think
Five sounds right.
5 sounds right. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Episode 5.
who cares? Yeah, man. You said you had a few things you wanted to talk about to start the show out. How would you like to start?
Yeah. I thought, like I said, kind of go through, we're getting closer to the season now. I guess want to talk about like some preseason, and the week 1 matchups are just insane in both college and NFL. The football guys really blessed us. They're like, hey, y'all hadn't had football in a long time. Well, here's just some amazing games to literally kick the season off. But we'll start where we're at right now with some preseason. I didn't know if you had any sort of preseason things that you're kind of looking for, like obviously for me being a Titans fan, seeing Cam Ward take the field, kind of see how he operates. I know it's not starting defenses and stuff like that, but are there any guys in particular that you're interested to watch, or maybe some preseason things that people can keep an eye on over the next couple of weeks?
I mean, I get to go with like your Titans thing, one that maybe isn't quite as flashy as what other people are looking for. I'm kind of interested to see, like you said, they're not starting, which means we'll get to see a little bit of like the Titans offensive line depth, see kind of how they're doing in that area. I know that, signing Dan Moore during the offseason and all the stuff that they've got going on. Obviously, I think their offensive line was a big problem, but that their guard was like, I can't remember his name, but he's getting older, or was getting older. He was like 35, 36. Didn't really have the best blocking tight end in the world. So going up against the Bucks here, I think that's their week 1 matchup.
Yeah, well, and I think you bring up a good point for a lot of these, a lot of these fans of these teams. It's you know, people don't care about preseason, this, whatever. But what you don't realize is, these guys that you're watching in preseason, injuries happen. We're not going to make it through this NFL season and nobody gets injured. So these guys that we're watching now, these are the ones that are going to be stepping in and taking their place. So it is interesting to kind of, especially your team specifically, like you said, the Titans with our offensive line struggles. We have some young draft picks and stuff like that. So I am curious to see, are we really building that position? Because if you have a good backup, then you can that's a guarantee that you have good starters. So it's kind of interesting to see those guys. Same with the receivers. I mean, if you got some great backup receivers, that's like, hey, we feel really good about our future. Um, so yeah, I mean, that I don't sleep on the preseason. I know it's maybe not the most exciting because yeah, at the end of the day, it don't matter and it's a scrimmage. But to see the depth on these teams and like I said, future stars. I think like Odell Beckham, he made some huge plays in preseason back when he was coming out, and there's kind of been some preseason stars over the years. So it's always interesting to see maybe those, 3, 4, 5 storylines that come out where it's like, hey, watch out for this guy. He might be a star, and sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But I don't sleep on the preseason.
Yeah, no, I mean, like you said, especially when we're talking about offensive and defensive line, most of the time you're seeing a lot of people rotating in and out throughout the game. So those backups aren't true. I wouldn't call them true backups. I know that you're called the starter because you played the first snap of the ball game, but a lot of the times, offensive line, defensive line, they all the way down to maybe sometimes third string get to see play time every game, depending, how much they rotate in and out. So,
Yeah.
watching offensive line and stuff like that during preseason is, to me, a bigger deal than, I could talk about Jalen Milroe or Isaac Tesla or Riley Leonard or any of these guys. But like you said, it takes an injury to get them in, where we're definitely going to see the offensive and defensive line.
And I'll say this too, I get, week 1, it's pretty much all backups, but now they've shortened it to 3 games for the preseason. So week 2, you're going to see probably, especially some of these newer starters, like I'm thinking for your team specifically, Sam Darnold. It's a brand new team. It's a new system. They want to get him in there and get these in-game reps before week 1. So I expect to see at least one drive from Sam Darnold in week 2, and maybe a quarter, maybe whatever. We'll see how they divvy out the playing time. But these guys that are in new places, new teams, even Devontae Adams getting on the field for the first time with Matthew Stafford, they're probably going to want to check that out at least for a drive or two in some of these games. So, like I said, it's it's that preseason feel. Like I said, specifically Sam Darnold's who I'm thinking, how's he going to look in that offense? Is he going to look comfortable? I mean, I know it's very quick to already look comfortable, but kind of lets you know, hey, how much progress did they make during the off season, and then how much kind of in season growing pains are we going to have? Because if he comes out and it doesn't look very fluid, it's like, all right, well, we can maybe suspect for the first 4 to 6 weeks that they're still going to be kind of gaining traction as a team, and then maybe pick up form about mid year. So
Yeah,
kind of
not
gives you
just
a nice feeler.
not just Sam Darnold. I mean, they kind of did a complete overhaul minus a few pieces here and there of the offense. So it's really kind of new for everybody. So seeing how they mesh together is something
Yeah,
to watch out for as well.
obviously Cooper Cup, building chemistry with them. Like I said, though, preseason is important. I don't think as fans we care about it too much, but I think I know the players don't care about it, but like I said, when you're building these new relationships, getting those in game, pretty semi full speed reps like against another defense, like that really does matter as far as how quick y'all are able to get on the same page and kind of start clicking. So hopefully you don't slip up too many games, like you can kind of come in the season ready to go.
Yeah, and on that too, another kind of not your normal. Oh, I'm excited to see Travis Hunter pick. The Raiders, starting this coming weekend, we'll get to see, and Geno Smith is going to be playing, so we'll get to see Chip Kelly calling plays for Geno Smith, which I think will be interesting to
Mm,
see. That dynamic. Chip Kelly back in the NFL again, calling shots for Geno Smith and this Raiders offense. I do look
that's
forward to seeing that.
That's a really good point too, and I assume obviously no one's trying to give away too much in preseason, so it will probably be somewhat basic. But yeah, I mean to see, like you said, what type of plays, what type of formations, because we all know Chip Kelly from Oregon and stuff, and the spread offense, which I guess all of football has become like that anyway. But he is kind of a unique coordinator, so I think you might get a little bit of a feel for, hey, what's this Raiders offense going to look like this year? So that'd be something fun to keep an eye on. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, let's.
I wouldn't be surprised if Chip Kelly shows a little bit of like welcome back to the NFL flash. Maybe, like you said, maybe not nothing too crazy, but I wouldn't be surprised if he goes out there and dials it up maybe a couple times just for shits and giggles.
Yeah. Well, I think, like I said, I don't want to spend too much time on preseason. I'm excited that football is just back on the TV. So I figure we should touch on that a little bit because it's happening now. And um, but I got a lineup for the NFL regular season week one. These are the games that we have on our slate. And as I went through them, I was thinking to myself, I was like, I'm just gonna make a list of like the matchups that I'm interested in, and I want to, have a good storyline. I shit you not. So obviously, there's 32 teams. All 32 teams are playing week one, so that means there's 16 games. There's 12 games that I put down that I'm like, oh, I'm excited for that. So 12 out of this 12 out of the 16 I think are going to be awesome matchups. We can start with week 1, game 1. Cowboys Eagles inter division, Eagles coming off their championship win obviously, but that's going to be a banger right out the gate. Cowboys Eagles.
Yeah, no doubt. It's a Thursday night primetime matchup, I believe,
Yep.
as it normally
Yep.
is. I wouldn't be surprised if we see an upset here with the Cowboys taking the win. I don't really know what's going on with the Cowboys. I say that with an asterisk on it. This whole Micah Parsons deal that they're dealing with, and we could talk our head off about that if we wanted to. But I think we don't really know what's going on with that drama, the contract drama that him and Jerry Jones got going on. But I think the Cowboys are notorious for starting their season out hot, and sometimes the Eagles look a little bit lackluster in the beginning of the year.
Yeah, that is kind of a trend the Eagles have. Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised here if you see the Cowboys come out and you see George Pickens, C.D. Lamb, a healthy Dak Prescott start off hot. Cowboys, with or without Micah Parsons, I think still obviously way better with Micah Parsons, but I think they still have a really good defense regardless.
Well,
So
and this game immediately, obviously being a divisional matchup. this already has playoff implications. I get it's
Yeah.
week one, this isn't going to make or break your season, but when you come down to week 16, week 17, and, one of these teams might be looking back when it comes down to, hey, who's going to be the division winner? This head to head matchup right out of week one could have been, the tiebreaker. So, um, yeah, I'm excited with George Pickens. I'm excited to see what this Cowboys offense looks like, and again, and we'll see what the Eagles look like. Obviously, I think it's the raising the banner night, so there's a lot of hype there. No one wants to come out when they raise the Super Bowl banner and lose. So I think
Yeah.
they'll have a lot of juice to play this game. But again, the Super Bowl slump is real, and so I guess I'm kind of interested to see too. Are the Eagles going to kind of have that same spark as they did last year, and how just are they the same team? Obviously, they did lose some key pieces, but they're still the core of that team is the same. So it's like, yeah, are they going to look unstoppable the way they did in the Super Bowl last year?
Yeah, and before we move on too, I'd like to throw out something I'm excited to see is that I said something about George Pickens and CD Lamb. I'm excited to see the battle that we're gonna see between Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, and those two star wide.
It's true. Those are some great matchups. I like that a lot. The next game I put down, Chiefs Chargers. Again, it's a divisional matchup. These are the two teams. I think maybe some people might throw the Broncos in there. I don't. I think it's Chiefs Chargers that are battling it out for the AFC West. But yeah, I mean, we get it week one right off the bat. Jim Harbaugh, obviously trying to make something with these Chargers. The Chiefs, with again, I know they went to the Super Bowl last year, but maybe they're one of their least visually appealing years last year. They won a lot of one score games. They kind of squeaked by. I'm not saying they squeaked by all the way to the Super Bowl, but was not their best season by far, even though they made it, which is crazy. But so yeah, Chiefs Chargers right out the bat. I like that a lot. That's gonna be a fun one.
Yeah, two top five defenses I think last year, both I would say top tier quarterbacks. Be a fun game to watch. I think the Chiefs last year had kind of a rough go at it offensively. And I think Patrick Mahomes comes out with a little bit more renewed focus, so to say, this year. And I'm gonna take the Chiefs over the Chargers in this one. Just I think they've got the key metrics they need for defense, obviously, and they just need to kind of pick up their offense a little bit, which I know that everybody always says this, and last year they had a like you said a bad year, but still went to the Super Bowl. So I mean, I think the Chiefs are still that same team, and if they can just tweak that offense just a little bit, then that is it. Chiefs Chargers, is it Chiefs Broncos? Is it who's going to be number one in the West? I think if the Chiefs can just tweak their offense a little bit, then those other teams kind of fade off a little bit, and it's just the Chiefs.
Yeah, so we got the Brazil game. Like I said, Travis Kelsey, I'm curious to see how good is he going to look. He had a down year last year, but I mean he's still Travis Kelsey. He's a Hall of Famer. Arguably you can argue that he's the best tight end to ever play the game. So I'm interested to see what he looks like. And but then something to think about too is so Rasheed Rice. It came out today that the NFL is suspending him for 3 games for a substance abuse
Yeah.
violation, I believe. So he will be out for that game, and that's yeah, I believe yeah, it'll be the first 3 games. So that's the Chiefs are already kind of thin on that receiving core. They got Xavier Worthy, but they don't have very big name guys. So losing Rasheed Rice, I think, is a big piece of that. Like you said, going up against that Chargers defense. So that's going to be a fun matchup. And again, something else, like I said about the Eagles Cowboys, is we could be looking at the end of the year and looking back on this game one matchup thinking, hey, that was the tiebreaker. So big playoff implications right there in week one. Next I have, which I don't know if I'm really excited about this, but it is a storyline, is Steelers Jets. Hopefully Justin Fields will be on the field. We flip flop quarterbacks. Justin Fields goes to the Jets. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers to the Steelers. So that one will be fun. Just for that storyline alone. I'm not too big on either. I don't care to watch this that much, but I do think it's a fun storyline.
I mean, I'm with you. I'm excited to see the Steelers play more so than the Jets. Obviously, being a Seahawks fan, I'm rooting for DK Metcalf and that offense in general. And I've always liked the Steelers as well. But that's a hard one to call because I've said before I predict the Steelers to have a pretty rough year this year. I'm not big on Aaron Rodgers, but it is kind of a lackluster game. I don't think I've ever been excited to watch the Jets except for that first game with Aaron Rodgers. And
Yeah, yeah. So, but yeah, like I said, that is a major storyline. All the big news channels are going to be covering that one. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers, wherever he's at, is always going to get a bunch of talk. So I put that one down. Next, a kind of a sneaky good one, I would say, is the Panthers Jags. There's a lot of hype around the Panthers this year. I think a lot of people are expecting them to make a leap. They drafted Ted McMillan. They looked really good at the end of the year last year. And then of course on the other side, the Jags, Travis Hunter, how are they going to utilize him? How's he going to look? So I think that one's actually a really sneaky good game to watch right there. Panthers Jags.
not to mention, last year the Panthers, I thought towards the end of the year started having a upswing, and Bryce Young and that offense started to click a little bit more. So I'm interested to see if they kind of carry that over into the beginning of this season. I really want the Panthers to be a better organization overall than they are. I could care less about the Jaguars. They're both pretty underwhelming teams in the past, as far as just not being super exciting to watch. But I am kind of rooting for the Panthers here. I want Bryce Young to see some success. I love Xavier Legette. Chuba Hubbard is, I think, a very underrated running back. And then, of course, Jaguars. Everybody's excited to see who we called Jar Jar Binks last episode, throwing Travis Hunter, and exactly how they're going to handle him playing both sides of the ball. There's a lot of questions with that with the Jaguars, so it'll be an interesting game just for those metrics. But overall, I mean, like our other two games, I don't think this one has any like playoff indications. Like I don't think this is a huge matchup for week one, but there are some pieces in the game that will be exciting to see.
If you play this game week 7 or week 8, we're probably not talking about it. But like I said, because it's week 1, we're getting to see these guys, these teams for the first time. I think that's why it's fun because, like I said, Panthers got a lot of hype, Travis Hunter. So the fact that it's week 1, I think, is a good spot for both these teams, and it's kind of an even matchup. I would say they're in similar positions though, both rebuilding, both kind of trying to find their traction. So, but yeah, for week 1, I like it. Like I said, I'll check it out. Probably at least a few drives here and there. Next up, I have another divisional matchup. Man, I tell you what, these divisional games that they give us week 1 are just awesome. In the same conversation as the Panthers, we got the Bucks versus the Falcons, and I think most people are looking at it as like, hey, those are going to be the two battling it out for that NFC. What is it? The South? Yeah, NFC South. So right there, again, playoff implications. Bucks Falcons right out the gate. I like that a lot.
Yeah. I think some people think that NFC South division is already kind of decided this year, but
Do you think it's the runaway Bucks? Like, is that already
I,
decided?
I think that's what people think. I mean, I think that's like the common
The
idea,
general
right?
consensus.
Yeah, the general consensus, right? And the Bucks, only kind of added to their already strong offense with Amika Egbuka and some of the other things they did. But like I mean, the Falcons, everybody's excited to see Michael Penix Jr. and the start of his era, if that's what we want to call it. And they've got a lot of young defensive players this year. So I'm still excited to see people like James Pierce Jr. and Jalen Walker, and which I think were both of their first round picks this year. Uh, but I got the Bucks winning that one. I think most people think the Bucks are kind of the NFC South favorites, but the Atlanta Falcons really need a bounce back year. They need it bad.
I mean, to spend that much money on Kirk Cousins and then to draft, Michael Penix. So yeah, I mean, I think this is a big game for Michael Penix because Falcons fan, there's a lot of expectation, and because I'm sure there's still a lot of fans and maybe even people inside the organization that probably think, maybe Kirk gives them the best chance to win a Super Bowl, at least for the next year or two. So lot riding on Michael Penix for that game. But yeah, I love the divisional matchups in week 1. I think that's awesome. Next up, we got the Raiders and Patriots. So I like this a lot. I'm not too high on the Raiders. I like Geno Smith, and I think he'll probably just surprise me. I'm not expecting a lot out of him, but I kind of put them in the similar category, like, new head coaches, obviously, with Mike Vrabel and Pete Carroll. and kind of new offenses, new pieces. We got Ashton Genty, Travion Henderson, and so I think that one will be a sneaky good one too. Like these teams are they hadn't been good the last few seasons, and now they're kind of rebuilding and trying to figure out their own identity. So having them match up against each other right away, I like that a lot.
Yeah, and you kind of have that storyline too of Josh McDaniels kind of posing revenge against the Raiders now that he's calling the offense at the Patriots and with Drake May and stuff. And people are probably excited to see if Drake May still continues what little bit of upswing he might have had towards the end of the year. But the Raiders, and I think this is a good game for the Patriots to kind of get their whistle wet offensively because the Raiders have a horrible fucking defense. Even with Max Crosby, and he might give May and the Patriots a little bit of trouble. But I'm looking for like a "we are back" statement from the Patriots here, and hopefully come away with this win. Even though I am more excited to see the Raiders play than I am the Patriots, I look at the Raiders or the Patriots like they want to prove something, and I got them winning that one.
Yeah, and good. I like the McDaniel shout out. I kind of actually forgot about that. So yeah, that just kind of adds to the storyline. Even though Mike Vrabel, we got rid of him, but he's been the greatest Titans head coach since Jeff Fisher, and I like Vrabel a lot. I honestly don't want to see him go have success with the Patriots, just because then I would feel like we made the wrong choice of letting him go, which I still feel that way. But I can't help but pull for him. I like him as a guy. I like him as a head coach. So I for some reason find myself rooting for the Patriots in this one. So, but yeah, I think that's going to be a really fun matchup. And like you said, a good starting point for the Patriots if they're going to be that second team in the AFC East like I've predicted. I think you got to come out and make a statement right here with this game and get out there with a W. So next up, right there, this one's for you. And I love it. It's another divisional game, and it's got huge playoff implications right off the bat. Seahawks, Niners. Everybody's expecting the Niners to, I don't know what the hype is around the Niners. Like I get there in the Super Bowl 2 years ago, whatever it was, but people are already predicting them to be back in the Super Bowl. So they got a lot of hype. Of course, the Seahawks with Sam Darnold, like I've already mentioned, a divisional game. So I really like this one. I'm interested to hear your thoughts about it.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, it's the start of the Sam Darnold era, right? However long that may be. I think that the Niners have a very young defense and largely unproven. So again, this is another good first week for an offense that may need not necessarily bounce back for the Seahawks because they're brand new, but we were talking about that. You know, how well will they mesh together? Even so, starting out slow, if they were going to start out slow, I think this 49ers defense is one of the more forgiving defenses, even though they're led by Robert Saleh, who was the defensive coordinator during the Legion of Boom at Seattle, now the defensive coordinator at the 49ers. So that's a interesting kind of another storyline matchup there. But yeah, I mean, the offense of the 49ers is obviously always scary, especially now with quote unquote a healthy Christian McCaffrey on the field, and the Seahawks defense, they're supposed to be pretty good this year. I think it's going to be a really good game. I mean, I think it comes down to the wire, really close. If I had to put my money on it, my heart goes with the Seahawks. If I had to put money, I'd probably pick 49ers in a close rivalry game. But I am definitely looking forward to that one. That's like every Seahawks dream for a week one.
Well, that like you said, that the Seahawks Niners have been that's just a rivalry that's been huge in the last 10 years. I'm sure probably even before that, but in our recent memory, the last 10 years, Seahawks Niners has always been a good game. And you saying that if you had to just, actually bet on it, you'd probably bet the Niners. And that's because they have the continuity. Brock Purdy, like they've been together longer. The Seahawks, they're a brand new team, brand new quarterback, new receivers, new, second year head coach. Like they got a lot to figure out still, but I do think I am really excited to see them play. I'm excited to see Cooper Cup, Jackson Smith and Jigba, take on that number one role. I'm really excited to see is he gonna become like a premier receiver in this league? And I know that we're not gonna find that out only in week one, but obviously that's where it starts. So yeah, I think that one's going to be a really fun matchup to watch. Next up, since we're kind of being homers right now, we got the Titans and Broncos, which I know most people are probably sitting here, saying, "Oh, we don't care to watch that game," and that's fine. I get it. People think the Broncos are just going to roll right over the Titans, and they very well might. But obviously, for me and any other Titans fans or any just Cam Ward fans, this is one of the best defenses in the NFL, the Broncos, and we got them at they're at their home, so that just makes it even tougher. But I'm excited to see the poise of Cam Ward. That's been one of the things that he's talked about. How he just is calm under pressure, no moment too big for him, nothing can get to him. Well, we're gonna find out week one because, like I said, he's on the road against one of the top defenses in the NFL. So I'm very excited to see how he looks. I'm not expecting him to go out there and play perfect by no means, but I'm really hoping that we do see some flashes of brilliance from him in this week one game.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I think Broncos have a chance of being the number one defense in the NFL this year.
Yeah.
Definitely top three, top five, no doubt. And the last two games we talked about was, you know, unproven offense going up, starting the year kind of easy with an easy defense is the exact opposite for the young Cam Ward. And it definitely, I don't know if to say it will prove anything because he is a rookie. This is his first game. I think hopefully there's somebody telling him to, you know, this is kind of a weird, perfect way to take pressure off of the rookie versus adding more. I hope he can just go out there and play, be willing to make mistakes, take chances, and just go out and ball out. And you never know.
Yeah.
I was gonna say one good thing that the Titans have going for them is Sean Payton teams historically do start kind of slow, so it'll be interesting to see if Denver can change that narrative. But otherwise, I would have to take the Broncos over the Titans here, just purely off of Titans are in a rebuild, and then, like you said, one of, if not the best defenses coming into the season this year.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm right there with you. No one's expecting the Titans to win the Super Bowl this year. Again, as we talked about in last podcast as well, is sometimes these rookie quarterbacks come in and they just take a team to the whole new level. I mean, we saw it with C.J. Stroud, we saw it with Jaden Daniels. This could be a sneaky game for the Broncos to lose because obviously they're probably heavily favored. I'd probably give them at least a 10-point right off the bat. But again, sometimes they think it's the, first game, shaking off the rust. Oh, we just got the Titans, whatever. And next thing you know, it's like, oh shit, this guy Cam Ward can play. They actually have a new O line. Oh, their defense, you know what I'm saying? Like it could sneak up and bite the Broncos in the ass. Like you mentioned, Sean Payton teams kind of start a little slow. So I hope that they're ready. I think the Titans will be. I think that's obviously for me personally, that's going to be a fun one to watch.
Yeah,
Next up, go ahead. Go ahead.
I hate that both of our teams that's both September 7th, that first Sunday of the year. It's the same start time for the Seahawks and the Titans game, 4:05 Eastern time. So
Well, luckily for me, I'm so committed. I bring my bedroom TV into the living room, and so I put the four screen games. So I have 5 games going. I'll have one game on the big screen, and then I have 4 on the other one. And so I'll have Seahawks Niners on there for sure. Because yeah, I wanna, and it'll give us good talking points for our podcast too.
I'm gonna be in here like a security guard at the mall with 5 different screens pulled up on my 3 different monitors, trying to watch
Oh
the
yeah.
games.
Yeah, I feel like I'm the sole man running a freaking mission to Mars. Like, and I got 5 rocket ships, and then they're all calling me, Houston, what are we doing? And I'm like, I don't know. There's so much football. I love it. Anyway, but so next on the list we got Lions and Packers. Don't even have to mention the hype about this game. Divisional game yet again. Like I said, the divisional matchups in week one are just stellar. But this is the battle for the NFC North. I think, with all due respect to the Vikings and Bears, who sneak peek we're going to get to in these next couple games because they play each other week one as well. But I think this is the Lions and the Packers division to win. We'll see what this Lions team looks like with the new offensive and defensive coordinators. Obviously, they lost their starting center. I can't remember his name, but he was really good. So kind of not a new Lions team, but it's probably going to look and feel a little bit different to start. And then the Packers, are they going to make a serious push? Way too early Super Bowl predictions. I threw them in there because I think that they're one of those teams that could really make a leap this year, but they're going to have to make a statement week one against the Lions and go ahead and take that number one spot in the division right off the bat. So I like this one a lot.
So yeah, like you said, the Lions, it'll be interesting to see that dynamic offense that they had. Is it, I mean, I know a lot of it has to do with the weapons they have because they have them, I mean, their roster is just filled with weapons and only continue to add more with Isaac Tesla going there as well, which I'm excited to see. But is it Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator, that was the reason for their offensive success? How much did he play into it now that they don't have what's that offense going to look like? And then, like, the defensive coordinator, Aaron Glenn. It'll be interesting to see, like you said, the coaching changes. And then as far as the Packers go, previously, I would have probably handed this game to the Packers. I think this is Jordan Love is going to come out and try to prove himself. But shocker, I think Green Bay is one of the biggest holes in their roster right now is at cornerback. And if we could flash back to a previous podcast, editor, throw that up on the screen real quick. I believe it was me saying that Jair Alexander is a much more important piece to this Green Bay Packers team than anybody understands. And I think Green Bay's cornerback situation is very susceptible to this Jamison Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, just air raid that's coming their way. So this one's going to be close, and I think it's going to be an offensive shootout more than anything. I still might take the Packers in this one, but super close. I don't know. I like the Lions a lot, but I think Jordan Love comes out and balls out this game.
I do believe the Packers are at home for this one. Yeah,
Yeah.
Packers are at home. So that that gives them a slight edge. But I love that you shouted out. Yeah, that was one of our first podcasts, if not the first, or yeah, I think it was the first. But we talked about Jair Alexander, and I think that's huge that they did not re-sign him. And again, we talk about in probably one of the most stacked receiver divisions in all of football with Jamison Williams, obviously Amon-Ra St. Brown, you got Roma Dunze, all the guys on the Bears, the Vikings with Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison. And so it's like you have to have guys that can cover in that division, specifically that division, and to just kind of let one of the top cornerbacks go. We'll see how that plays out, but I do think that the Lions are going to pick them apart. I'm taking the Lions in this one. I don't want to say easy, but I think it's going to take the Packers a few games to kind of find their traction. Again, the Lions, they already know who they are, and they just got to go out there and be that, and I think they will. So, but super close. I would probably maybe give the Lions a 3-point spread. I think maybe they win the game by a touchdown or something, but it will be probably a one-score game. It's going to be close.
Yeah.
Next one, I love this one a lot. I feel like maybe they're on the same plane. We got Texans and Rams, and it's going to be at the Rams. I if what we'll do our solidified our Super Bowl predictions and things like that. The Rams might be my Super Bowl pick. Just I'm gonna go ahead and lay that out there. I'm very high on them. We saw how close they played the Eagles last year. I mean, nobody came closer to taking down the Eagles than the Rams. And adding Devontae Smith, I think, is a huge weapon on that offense. So I like them a lot. I think the Texans, people are expecting big things from them. They kind of took a step back last year. Nico Collins getting hurt in the middle of the season obviously didn't help. I think even Tank Dell went down. They just they didn't quite live up to expectations last season, but I think they're bound for a nice bounce back this year and let people know, hey, we are legit. So I think this is a really, really good matchup in week one, Texans Rams.
Yeah, I probably have the Rams winning this one as well. The Rams were already really good last year, and now they've added Devontae Adams and a few more offensive weapons there. It'd be definitely a tougher matchup than without them. I do expect the Texans to have kind of a bounce back. Like you said, 2024 was a little bit tough for them. Nico Collins getting hurt and whatnot, and we'll see how much he truly meant to the team. But I mean, I don't think it's if both of these teams come in here healthy, I think this will be an insane game week one. So I'm looking forward to it as well. But I do have the Rams probably closer than what people think. If people just watch football and they're like, well, they seen what the Texans did last year and what the Rams did last year, but obviously you can't just base it off of that. I think it's going to be a pretty close matchup.
I agree. And I think, kind of a statement game for both these teams because I don't think anybody thinks that it's outside the realm of possibility that the Texans could get to the AFC Championship game. And then once you're there, who knows? But I think whichever team wins this game, it really does make a statement of, hey, we can play and we can beat anybody in this league. And they're, starting out 1-0. I think that's going to really help build momentum for them for the rest of the year. So yeah, huge game for both sides. I'm with you. I do think the Rams come out on this one, but that'll be a fun one to watch. I believe our first Sunday night game, and of course, I think this is, matchup of the year. This is like the creme de la creme of week one is Ravens Bills.
Yeah.
You got two-time MVP Lamar Jackson, one-time MVP Josh Allen. They were clearly the two best quarterbacks in football last year. Joe Burrow kind of being that asterisk on the outside, but this is just an awesome matchup. This is, I'm sure a lot of people are sort of expecting maybe an AFC championship preview if either of these teams can figure out how to beat the Chiefs. But yeah, these two teams are going to be in it at the end of the year, and so it's good. It's just nice to see them right off the bat. And let's get straight into it and start. As I think this one's just going to be haymakers. I think it's going to be Lamar, Josh Allen, Ravens defense. That Ravens defense is no joke.
Yeah.
Like I said, they added Jair
Jair
Alexander.
Alexander.
They've added other pieces, and so I think this one, and it's at the Bills, which gives a little slight advantage to the Bills. So, but yeah, just super excited for this one, week one.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and predict a week one interception by Jair Alexander late in the game to put the bow on it. Ravens win a super close game with Jair Alexander getting the game winning pick right there at the end.
I like that, and you know what? I'm actually I'm a Josh Allen semi Bills fan, whatever. But I do think that the Ravens, I think they steal this one. I just people kind of forget, but like the Bills are kind of rocky, and even last year, I think it was 2 years ago, they kind of had to go on a run at the end of the season to even make the playoffs. So they're not they don't always start out hot. They kind of have to take time to find their footing, and they are still a young team. Keon Coleman, Shakir, and so they're kind of still figuring some things out too. But I think the Ravens are locked and loaded and ready to go, and I think they're going to come out and make a statement week one and take down the Bills.
Yeah, it is at the Bills, but this first of all, these teams this good, I don't know if that matters too much. And another thing is it's early enough in the season where the Ravens won't have to deal with that Buffalo cold to start the season out. So I don't think being at the Bills is gonna be as big of a deal as it normally is.
This one just feels like two bullies meeting like they don't care. It's all about the fight. They could meet in the schoolyard. They could meet in the parking lot. They could meet in the ocean. They're just ready to duke it out. That's how it feels like. They don't give a shit who's watching. There could be nobody at the game, and they're going to bring it because this is, I mean, that's as big as it gets right there. Ravens Bills. So love that we get that week one. Like I said, first Sunday night football. Great job, NFL schedule makers. And then I think our first Monday night game, if I've looked at the schedule correctly, is Vikings Bears. Again, another divisional game, and maybe it's not the sexiest, but we have JJ McCarthy versus Caleb Williams. What's this Bears team going to look like with Ben Johnson at the helm? Is JJ McCarthy a suitable replacement for Sam? I mean, Sam Darnold's kind of the replacement, but is JJ, was getting rid of Sam Darnold a mistake, or is JJ going to be for real? I think we're going to find out a lot in week one with both of these teams. And I don't know which way this one's going to go, to be honest with you. I think it's a toss up.
Yeah, I think it leans pretty heavy on the quarterback play. The only reason I think I might take the Vikings over the Bears is Kevin O'Connell. I think is one of the greatest minds in football, and if anybody can get JJ McCarthy going, I think it's him. And then Ben Johnson also obviously is a really good play caller. I've got to give kind of lean more towards Kevin O'Connell and his play calling for now until I see kind of how this Bears offense meshes together. And I've got to see an uptick from Caleb Williams to get behind the hype. I've not been I've not been big on Caleb Williams since he came in. I'm going to give him more flowers than I did last year and say that he definitely has the talent, but I think he's going to get eaten alive still by this Minnesota defense, and it's going to force him to have to make some plays. And I don't know if they're going to be able to hold up to the Vikings. So I'll probably take the Vikings here, but like you said, I think it is a toss up. It just heavily depends on play calling and how they get these two quarterbacks started off for the year.
Yeah, and I don't. I think those are some great points. I do like Kevin O'Connell. Obviously, he's been there for years now. And then, like I said, Ben Johnson, brand new team, first time head coach. He's going to have some figuring out to do, but I can't help but lean on the Bears. I feel like they're going to win this game, and I think it probably mostly has to do with me not believing in JJ McCarthy. I don't think he's going to be bad, but I do think it's going to take time. You know, this is essentially his first game. He didn't play at all last year, besides a few snaps in the preseason. So yeah, this is his first game. I think he's going to struggle. That Bears defense is really good. It's at Chicago, so you know it's going to be loud. There's a lot going on. Not that JJ McCarthy is a stranger to the big moments, having won a national championship. But yeah, I guess I'm leaning towards the Bears on this one. But again, I think it really could go either way because both sides are like they're kind of in the same spot. They're both trying to figure it out and see who they got, how they're going to be, and just a great matchup to start the year for both
I,
of these teams.
I will say too, another like to kind of make this a little bit about fantasy right here at the end is with Jordan Mason going to the Vikings. I know we talked about Aaron Jones last week in our or not last week, but last podcast about fantasy and stuff. And how do you feel about drafting Aaron Jones early? Well, Jordan Mason, I don't know if people remember, but before he hurt his shoulder, was arguably one of the best backs in the league. And I know that he, at San Francisco, just about any running back in that system has been good in the past. But I am excited to see kind of how the Vikings manage Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason together. Are they going to do a kind of a Sonic and Knuckles inspired duo where, obviously I think Aaron Jones would be David Montgomery and Jordan Mason, Jameer Gibbs in this situation. But that backfield, especially with a rookie quarterback, I think is going to get a lot of touches. I'm excited to see how that plays out. So I kind of am looking forward to this game in a fantasy sense as well.
That's a great point. Again, something else I didn't really think about, but yeah, I do think Jordan Mason is being very slept on right now. I mean, Aaron Jones is what 30, 31.
I think he's 30 or 30. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah, but I mean, you know, he's at the end of his career. Like he might have another one or two seasons left in him, but like he's about to be done. So, and I know he's listed as the starter, but I'm with you. I like the Jameer Gibbs David Montgomery comparison. I do think that they're going to kind of run a two back system. I don't think that Aaron Jones is going to get the majority of the touches. I think it's going to be pretty 50-50. Um, but yeah, I agree with the rookie quarterback. They're going to lean heavily on that run game. So seeing how they kind of divvy this up and how Jordan Mason looks in that offense, because the Vikings have a good O line. And as you already mentioned, Kevin O'Connell is a great play caller. So that could be a real difference maker for the Vikings this year, how they utilize those two backs. So
But yeah,
definitely will be fun to watch.
it just makes JJ McCarthy's job as a rookie so much easier too, knowing you have a good offensive line, knowing you have, like a not old, but a veteran running back in Aaron Jones, and then a kind of a rising, underrated, I think, star in Jordan Mason gives him. And then obviously he's got Justin Jefferson out there too, which if this running game is even close to as good as Jameer Gibbs and David Montgomery is, and I don't think they will be, but if they're close to that dynamic at all, I think Kevin O'Connell will find a way to use them to take the pressure off JJ McCarthy, put more people in the box to stop this, and then that opens up Justin Jefferson obviously down the field. And JJ McCarthy's good enough to say fuck it, JJ's down there somewhere.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah, the Vikings gonna be a fun team to watch this year. So those were the 12 matchups that I was excited about. Like I said, some more so than others, but I think all 12 of those have good storylines. The four that I left out was Bengals, Browns, Giants, Commanders, Cardinals, Saints, Dolphins, Colts. I think Cardinals, Saints. I don't know if anybody's going to be watching. I think the fans might even just stay home and watch these other matchups. But there are some good points. The Bengals, you got to win. You got to win week 1. I don't think they've won week 1 in the last 3 seasons or something like that.
Yeah.
Uh, Bengals, you got to beat the Browns. The schedule makers literally are tossing you up a cupcake. I mean, no, not that the Browns are a cupcake, but they're figuring a lot of shit out. If you cannot manage to beat the Browns in week 1, then you're just a complete and utter disappointment. So that one's interesting just for that aspect. But the other ones, again, Giants, Commanders. Commanders should handle the Giants. They're a brand new team figuring stuff out. Nobody cares about Cardinals Saints at all. Which I do think Cardinals might be sneaky good this year, but the Saints are just so boring. I'd rather watch baseball. Dolphins and Colts, whatever. Two teams trying to figure it out. So what do you any talking points on any 4 of those games?
Uh, yeah. Well, the Giants Commanders, I actually think, is more interesting than what people give it credit.
It is a divisional game.
Yeah, I think obviously I think everybody's expecting the Commanders to take this one, but Russell Wilson coming in, and I know what Russell Wilson has looked at or looked like the past couple of years. He's obviously been on a downslide. But the Giants have really improved their team during this offseason, and a lot of this team I think is hungrier than what people realize. I think that they've got some deep ball threats that people don't really know about just because they couldn't get them the ball. I mean, I think Jalen Hyatt, this is a prove it year for him. He, I think, was expected to do more than he did. And Russell Wilson, say what you want, has always, and I think still does have one of the prettiest deep balls in all of the NFL. So I think this Giants offense could be better than what people think. And then I think the Commanders are still kind of like, they're still putting the pieces together. And if I was going to pick an upset this week that like would just blow people's minds, I wouldn't be. I would be surprised, but I wouldn't be blown away if the Giants upset the Commanders here in a close one.
Like that, yeah. And the more you talk about it, the more I'm like, I guess that, and it's the NFL. All the matchups are, pretty decent. But yeah, and that Giants defense, obviously adding Abdul Carter to an already great defensive line, so they're going to be getting after Jaden Daniels, and I'm assuming that Terry McLaurin's going to get re-signed purely if the Commanders want to have any real shot at doing something this season. You have to re-sign Terry McLaurin. Like, it's not a question. If they don't re-sign Terry McLaurin, I'm not sure they make the playoffs. And I'm not, I don't want to just drop them off that much by losing one wide receiver, but I do think he's that big. He's that important of a piece to that system. So yeah, if they got to re-sign Terry McLaurin, I'm assuming they will. But if for whatever reason they don't, yeah, I would not be shocked at all if the Giants, win. Even if they have Terry McLaurin, I think it is a good matchup. It's a divisional opponent, and those games you never know. So that's a
Yeah.
good one. I like that. Well, that's kind of it on the NFL front. I think, like I said, that week 1 slate of games, I think it's going to be a lot of really good football. So, and just everybody remember, week 1 is a liar. So if your team wins, you're not going to the Super Bowl, and if your team loses, it's not a rebuild. Okay, week 1 is a liar. So, but it doesn't make for entertainment. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Week
Moving
one
to
is
switch.
week one is
Go ahead.
preseason extended cut. We're still figuring it out.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Preseason extended cut. Yeah. Week 2 is when you kind of start to figure out, okay, how are we really? And so, yeah, to go ahead and change lanes, because the college football week 1, and like I said, the
Please.
college football gods have just blessed us. I think the NFL was amazing. I think the college football week 1 matchups might even be more fun just because, I don't know, college is college, and the excitement is amazing. So, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 games that I've highlighted on here. There's probably about 3, maybe 4 that are really, really exciting. But I'll go down the list as I've labeled them. Actually, I'll reorder it because I want to talk about 2 in particular at last. But the first one I have, sneaky good game that probably nobody is maybe paying attention to, but I think is going to be really fun. Colorado versus Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
There's a lot of hype around Georgia Tech this year. to possibly win the ACC. I mean, that's kind of the hype that's going around them right now. They had a good year last year. They played Georgia super close, and I think Miami almost beat Miami too or something. But either way, I think Georgia Tech's going to be kind of a fun team to watch. And then Colorado, what are they going to look like without Travis Hunter and Shador Sanders? Is Coach Prime, is he able to really establish himself as a real football coach? Because what he's already done with Colorado is great, but again, I think it was just there was a lot of hype. He had two of the greatest college athletes at least last year in those two. So how are they going to look? It's a new Colorado team. I'm excited to watch them. I think Georgia Tech's a good matchup. So I think that one's going to be, like I said, a kind of a sneaky good matchup.
Yeah, I mean, I think Deion Sanders and this Colorado team are a bunch of TikTok stars. All they care about is headlines. They got that Caden Salter at quarterback, which he's supposed to be really good. But he played at like Liberty or something the year before. So, calling him good is kind of it's it's hard to say. I think Georgia Tech comes in and shows Colorado and Deion Sanders that football is more than just making TikTok videos and doing the best dance you can in the locker room, and it's time to learn how to play football, not learn how to be popular. And Georgia Tech runs away with this one. I think Colorado just gets dismantled.
Hmm. That's okay. That's an interesting take. I mean, I don't disagree, but definitely, I think that there's some people in the Colorado world at least, and that are going to think that's a hot take to say that that they're not a real team. But again, we're going to find that out. It's a tough team to start out with week one. But yeah, I think kind of a hot take right there.
I mean, look, you can look pretty all you want to, but football's not pretty. And I've seen Georgia Tech. They've been a good program for a long time. It's not a new thing to see Georgia Tech go into. I mean, even SEC teams can give them a tough time. They've always ran like your typical college football kind of offense with triple options and things like that. They're a fun team to watch, always really have been. And I just don't think Colorado's ready for a team like Georgia Tech, who I think in the ACC is one of those teams that wouldn't, obviously, I don't think they would like compete for an SEC championship or anything, but I think year in and year out, they're better than usually like Vanderbilt or in the past Kentucky and stuff like that. I've always enjoyed watching Georgia Tech. So I don't think it's a super hot take. I just think people are so high on Colorado because Deion Sanders smiles and his eyes twinkle behind his fancy glasses, and everybody thinks that fucking means something when he kind of bought his way with his son and Travis Hunter into being at best mediocre last year with two of the best college athletes. So without them, I mean, how if you fall off of mediocrity, where does that land you? It lands you getting fucking curb stomped by Georgia Tech.
Well, yeah, that's a good take. I like it a lot. All right, well, we'll give Colorado a break. Let them get off the mat a little bit. Au- another kind of sneaky good game, I think. Auburn versus Baylor. Let's interested to see what Auburn's going to be. Hugh Freeze, this is what his third year now.
Mhm.
He's kind of starting to build whatever he's building at Auburn, so it'll be interesting to see how they look. And then Baylor, they're kind of one of those teams that they're always kind of good, kind of similar to that Georgia Tech. Like they're gonna be a good football team. They might not be great, but that Big 12 uh mantras. I just think Big 12 SEC, those two teams kind of feel like they're on the same platform right now, and so I'm interested to see how they match up against one another.
Yeah, I don't know a whole lot about Baylor. I do know that Auburn, obviously, Hugh Freeze hasn't been great there so far, but after signing Jackson Arnold from Oklahoma, and they've got Eric Singleton, and I think one of the SEC's top receiving cores just in general. I think Auburn probably comes away with a win here, but I just pulled it up. The spread's only -2.5. So Vegas is predicting it to be a pretty close game, which again, I don't know a whole lot about what's going on over there at Baylor, but I do expect Auburn's offense at least to be pretty good this year. So
Yeah, I just think it was something that caught my eye about these two teams. I was just like, could be a very interesting game to watch. Like that. I don't know much about either of them either. But yeah, watch out for that one to be a fun one. And like I said, week one, just good matchup for Auburn to kind of test to see where they're at. Um, Next on my list, I'll just add these on the with kind of my bottoms here. I think we have probably a top three game that I want to talk about, and this one is probably the fourth. Alabama versus Florida State. I don't know much about Florida State, but I do know that's one of those football programs that should be good. I don't know if they will be good this year. I hadn't done a whole lot of digging into Florida State, but Alabama, of course, this is now Kalen DeBoer's second season. We got Ty Simpson at quarterback. I think now we're gonna really start to see what does this team look like with Kalen DeBoer. Is it gonna be an air raid offense? Are they gonna run? Just what's it gonna look like? And I like Florida State as a week one matchup. I don't think it's too tough, but I think it's tough enough to, like I said, kind of give us a gauge on okay, where are we at? If we lose this game, there's gonna be a lot of panic in the entire state of Alabama. But like I said, Florida State's one of those. There's just one of those programs that I'm never going to count out of any game just because they're just one of those teams. So I like that. I like that matchup a lot.
Yeah, I mean, Alabama, they're pretty. I think the past however many I can't even remember forever now they've in their season openers have always covered the spread or more. I mean, Alabama week one has always been they just
Well,
come out hot and now
that was also with Nick Saban though. I mean, Nick Saban, yeah, he had them boys ready to play week one. Because yeah, we have had some pretty big week one matchups in the past, but again, that was with the greatest head coach ever.
yeah.
So, like I said, is that tradition going to keep up with Kalen DeBoer? That's kind of interesting.
I don't know. It's interesting too with Gus Malzahn at Florida State as well, which I think yeah. So Gus Malzahn, he's got hired to kind of overhaul that offense. Florida State has added a whole lot, I believe. I can't really remember what they did add, but I have seen that they were pretty active in the transfer portal. They got some Italian kid at quarterback that's supposed to be pretty good, but no, I mean I got Alabama kind of running away from this one just based off pure talent. I mean, I think they're infinitely more talented than Florida State. But it is a interesting matchup week one, like I said, especially with Gus Malzahn being part of it. And then Kalen DeBoer, like you said, this is a bigger deal than what people realize. He goes out and somehow loses this one, there is going to be riots in the street. And
Yeah.
Nick Saban, might have to come back just to keep Alabama from burning to the ground.
Yeah, literally. The mayor and Donald Trump are going to declare the state of emergency. Nick Saban, get back into Tuscaloosa because we're about to lose an entire state. But the Gus Malzahn thing, I think, does take this to the next level because, much as I hate to say it, man,
He
he had Bama's number when he was at Auburn. He had Nick Saban's number. Something about him. And again, I know it's a completely different teams and matchups. I get it, but like something, I don't know. Gus Malzahn's kind of an Alabama kryptonite almost. And so, yeah, I think that was kind of the thing. But yeah, their offense just found he's a very creative guy, and he showed that a lot at Auburn. Yeah, interesting to see how that one plays out. I like that one a lot. Next up, again, probably not high on people's radar, but I thought this was kind of an interesting one. Utah versus UCLA. Utah is one of those teams. They just joined the Big Ten, I believe, last year. But they're a good team. Utah's always kind of been one of those tough teams, and I think it wasn't too long ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, they were like in the national championship conversation, and so they got a good program out there. And then UCLA, that with Nico Amaliva, and so yeah, like I said, I think that's kind of a fun one, week one, just to sort of see where these two programs are at.
Yeah, I hope Utah beats the brakes off UCLA. I hope Nico throws 9 interceptions and sacked 30 times. No injury, of course. I don't want the man to get hurt. But yeah, I hope Utah goes in there and just lays the smack down on UCLA.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
So
all.
I
That's
mean,
really all I can say about that one.
nah, yeah, there ain't, like I said, really the Nico story with UCLA. I think if
Yeah.
Nico wasn't there, I probably wouldn't even have talked about this one. But again, and Utah's not a bad program. Like I said, you remember when they had success not too long ago. Like like I said, I'm not sleeping on Utah to be a decent football team this year. I'm not saying they're going to make the playoffs, but a decent football team.
Just so if all three people that are listening to this, I don't actually mean that. I am, and I think Nico is a super fun player to watch. He's got that very athletic, dynamic build that just makes him look like a good football player. And I think he had some big moments at Tennessee, and I am excited to see him at UCLA with a little less competition. I think he's going to ball out over there at UCLA, and I am excited to see him play. So I might tune into that game for a few drives and see how he's doing.
Oh, sorry. I lost you for a second. That was my bad.
Oh, you're good.
Next one, I'm gonna bounce around a little bit on my list. Another kind of quick one we can touch on. I don't want to spend too much time. Is TCU versus UNC.
Yeah.
Obviously, Bill Belichick. What's North Carolina going to look like? TCU's, kind of similar to that Utah. They were good a couple years ago. So are they going to be good? Are they going to find some similar success this year, or are they just going to kind of stay where they've been? But really, the Bill Belichick story is the one that's interesting to me.
Yeah, so I guess my only prediction for this game is I probably could see TCU coming in there and beating North Carolina and maybe a close game, and then the public and ESPN and people like us on podcasts, we're all going to say that Bill Belichick is not the coach he used. Like I think the public would have a field day with TCU upsetting. I think it would be an upset. I don't know who's favored in that game, but in my mind, it would be an upset if TCU goes in there and wins. Um, and then the public just absolutely trounced Bill Belichick and the Tar Heels in general, and it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, really, like I said, this Bill Belichick's kind of all I want to see. What's that program going to look like? So I just kind of want to mention that one. Like I said, week one, it's football. Football's back. These are just kind of some fun matchups.
Yep.
Another super sneaky one right before I get to my final three that I think are like the really big matchups. But Virginia Tech versus South Carolina. I think that one is going to be sneaky good. Obviously, South Carolina's got a lot of hype around them. They're going to be a fun team to watch this year. And Virginia Tech's no slouch. Like I said, they're one of those programs. They're always good. Maybe not great, but they're always good. I think that one could actually be really, really fun. And I think it might be a shootout.
Yeah, Virginia Tech's offense has always been fun to watch. That's where Hendon Hooker came from. They've always kind of produced pretty decent quarterbacks. But yeah, I think South Carolina pretty heavily favored in this one. Lenore Seller probably goes in, balls out. South Carolina did lose some pieces on defense. Those two defensive ends, I can't ever remember their names, but I thought two of the best defensive ends in all of college football last year. They lost both of them, but I still think they probably have a top tier defense this year. But like you said, I think that is a sneaky kind of just watch out game because South Carolina, they're or at least have been in the past so hit or miss on how productive they really are, and they've had super hyped up quarterbacks like Lenora Sellers in the past. Spencer Rattler was one of them there for a while, and they haven't always lived up to the hype. So I'm not too ready to just all in jump on the hype train with South Carolina, but I think this is a better proving game than what people would give it credit for, even though South Carolina is probably at least favored by 10 or so.
South Carolina is definitely the spotlight of this matchup. We want to see how they look. Okay, are they legit? Because like I said, there's a lot of hype around them, and I'm kind of like you. I'm hesitant to just go all in on them and be like, oh yeah, they are a contender this year for not just the playoff spot, but national championship. I think that's what they're thinking. I think that's kind of what a lot of these talk show people, there's big expectations for South Carolina this year. And week one against Virginia Tech, I think we should see at least, how legit are they? Because if you come up and barely squeak by Virginia Tech, there's going to be some questions. But if they go out and dominate, then it might be like, okay, hey, they actually got something serious down there. So that one's going to be fun to watch.
Are you about to say your last one that you're most excited for? Because I know which one that is. If you're about to say that last one, or do you have some
last three?
Okay, before you get to the big one, if you don't cover the two games that I'm thinking of that I want to hit real quick, pause before you hit that big one, and I'll. So yeah, go ahead with your other two.
Yeah, the other two, yeah, I'm gonna hit them right now because these are the three best matchups in week one, and I absolutely love that we get these right out the gate. We all know what number one is, but we'll keep the anticipation building for people that don't know.
Yeah.
But the first one I'll put it to number three. I'm most excited for is Notre Dame versus Miami.
Okay, that's one.
Yeah, Notre Dame coming off the natty loss. How are they going to look this year? Obviously, their quarterback's gone, so they're going to have a new quarterback in there. Yeah, Miami, Carson Beck. You know, how are they going to look? Cristobal, another year in Miami. So I think that one's going to have some playoff implications for both these teams because I think both these teams are thinking playoffs and national championships, and so this one's gonna matter. Which one comes out on top is gonna catch a lot of attention from the rest of the league.
I never thought I would say it. I'm very excited for a Notre Dame Miami game. Notre Dame and this Jeremiah Love running game this year, even though, like you said, they are replacing their quarterback. I'm super high on Jeremiah Love. I think he's ridiculously good. So I'm excited to see him play. And then obviously, yeah, like you said, Carson Beck coming from Georgia, and Miami has a really good offensive line. Kind of see how he works over there in a different system. I wasn't a big fan of him at Georgia, but yeah, I'm just excited to see that game. I don't really know who I mean, I probably take Notre Dame over Miami, but I mean, it's definitely an interesting game. It's probably going to be closer than people realize. I think a lot of people are just going to hand it to Notre Dame because they went to the national championship last year, but I think Miami gives them some troubles, at least early on.
It's at Miami. Matters I think a whole lot more in college than it does NFL. I mean, stadiums
Yeah.
are bigger, fans are crazy or whatever, so that's a big advantage for Miami. But yeah, is Carson Beck? How is this Carson Beck Miami team going to look? I think last year left a sour taste in our mouths with Carson Beck, but it wasn't nothing but 2 years ago that he was leading Georgia to a national championship and he looked amazing. So will he kind of have a bounce back year? Does he kind of find a new groove with Miami? That's a big question. And then, is Notre Dame actually going to be legit and have a chance at going back to the national championship and finishing the business last year, So yeah, great matchup week one. Next up, number two on my list. If it wasn't for the number one, this one would be just bonkers awesome. But LSU versus Clemson,
Mhm.
love, love, love it. Cade Klubnik, Brett Nussmeier. It's at Clemson, which I think is good for Clemson because if it was at LSU, I think go ahead and give it to LSU. But I think being at Clemson, it kind of makes it a little bit more even. But yeah, love this matchup. I think both of these teams are national championship contenders. We're looking at, you know, possibly two first round draft picks in next year's NFL draft, duking it out in week one. Huge playoff implications down the road. Yeah, I love this. I love this matchup.
Yeah, I think in this one I'm gonna take LSU. Their receivers are elite receivers, core, Garrett Nussmeier. So the only reason that I'm gonna lean towards LSU is because I am starting to think that Clemson gets a big name because they were good for 3 or 4 years and they're super overhyped every year. They've been on a downslide. Dabo can't seem. If Dabo's not willing to get behind the NIL thing, I respect that thought process. But if he's not able to get behind that and start paying some players, I'm not going to consider I'm not going to take their hype seriously until they show me, prove it, and Dabo either changes his mind or retires like Nick Saban did. But yeah, I mean, Cade Klubnik is very good, and LSU's secondary is pretty weak, so it could just be a fucking shootout, very exciting, high scoring affair. But I probably still lean heavier towards LSU.
Well, and I think you bringing up Dabo Sweeney, he's I mean with the best college football coaches, and I guess you can throw Ryan Day in that mix now if you want, or Marcus Freeman from Notre Dame. I wouldn't put them in the top three,
Yeah.
maybe top five, but the last 20 years.
Not saying Josh Heupel, by the way, is disrespectful. Josh Heupel is for sure top five
Yeah, okay.
head
I
coaches.
apologize. You're right. You're right. Um, but no, but Dabo Swinney, he's that probably number third best coach in the last 10 years we've seen in college football. Clemson was on a dominant run for 5 to 6 years, beat Nick Saban in the national championship, so but the last, I mean, what feels like 4 or 5 years, they just haven't been relevant. And again, yeah, him not being on board with the whole NIL thing, I respect it, brother. But if you want to keep your job, he's got to find some success again. He's a great coach, and I think he has to prove it in this week one game. I mean, if you drop the ball against LSU, I think that does some major damage for the rest of their season. With the ACC being as weak as it is, they can still win the ACC and make the playoffs. We're not in the old days where you lose one game and your season's over. But this one's a big one. This one's going to prove, is Clemson legit or is Clemson not? Because I think everybody kind of has the same expectations from LSU. We're expecting them to come in here and win whatever. But if Clemson finds a way and they play good football and they look really good and they come out with a victory, that's going to raise a lot of heads. And I think, Dabo's going to get a lot of respect for, hey, he's still that guy. He's still a great coach, and Clemson is a force to be reckoned with this year. So this is a much bigger game for Clemson than it is for LSU, I think.
Yeah, the fall off of Clemson needs to be studied.
We've never seen. I mean, it was Alabama Clemson like for 5, 6 years in a row. I mean, that was
I was gonna say
that.
if Georgia Tech is favored to win the ACC by a lot of people, that says a lot about where Clemson is at as a program.
Yeah, I mean, that would be like Alabama not making the playoffs for the next 5 years or something. It's just like, and obviously we know that, but that would be like if Nick Saban was still at Alabama and they still have their head coach. So like you're right. It's crazy the drop off that they've had, and this was before NIL. Obviously now with the NIL and Dabo and his whole thing, but yeah, they fell off hard, and it's mind boggling. But I do think, there's a lot of hype around Cade Klubnik this year, and they looked pretty good at the end of the year last year. So this is a week one matchup. Hey, are y'all legit or are you not?
If Alabama had the past 4 years that Clemson has had, every blog, everybody, the streets would be on fire. ESPN would not shut up about it. They would not be still garnering the same respect that people are still remain to give Clemson after such a bad 4 or 5 years or whatever it's been. Like I said, if it was Alabama, we would not even be sitting here talking about it. They would have been, oh, the dynasty's over. They're followed off. They're never going to be good again. We're going to have another 10, 12-year drought. They would be just burying Alabama. And for some reason, they keep giving Clemson their flowers, even after clearly it not just being a 1 year or 2 year slump. I mean, it's been going on for, like you said, 3, 4, 5 years. It's not just a slump. This Clemson team has to earn its respect back. And until they do that, I'm not giving it to them.
Well, I like that a lot. I think that's a great point. I don't know why Clemson, they're dynasty, because I mean it was a dynasty. You went from Deshaun Watson, who won the Heisman, to Trevor Lawrence. I mean, that was a short dynasty, but a dynasty nonetheless.
Luke
And
Kuechly,
yeah, and it just completely died. And like I said, they didn't get bashed for it. Dabo was never in jeopardy to lose his job. And it's just like, it feels like, yeah, if it was any other program, there'd be a lot of talk about it. And somehow every year we still come in like, oh, who's going to win the ACC? Well, probably Clemson. And maybe it's because it is such a weak conference, but yeah, that was a nice take. I like what you did there. So last game, I know you said to take a pause, so I'm not going to announce it or anything, but we all know what the best game of week one is. I'll let you do whatever you need to do before we start getting into this one.
Yeah, so you covered the 2 games I wanted to, but I will throw in here too, just being a Tennessee fan, and it's not, I don't think necessarily going to be like a good game or a close game, but I think it is somewhat of a proven game, at least for the Tennessee fans, this Tennessee-Syracuse game, and it's also a battle for the orange. It's going to be at a neutral site, probably Atlanta. Syracuse did have that Kyle McCord who led the NCAA in passing last year. Now I know that that's not that crazy at being Syracuse. If he was in the SEC, who knows how good he would have been. But they don't have him anymore. I guess where I'm going at this. And Tennessee doesn't have Nico, so it'll be interesting to see Joey Aguilar and this offense. No Dylan Sampson. I think Tennessee obviously still wins this pretty heavily just because it is Syracuse, and I'm not super high on them. But it's a neutral field. There are two orange teams going at it. It's an interesting game nonetheless.
Yeah, and I think I respect Tennessee enough that I probably overlooked that game. But yeah, obviously, if you're a Tennessee fan, I don't think that's a terrible Week 1 matchup. You know, it's a good feeler game. You should win. But like I said, it's a new team. You're gonna kind of get to see, hey, how's it gonna look? How's it feel? Like, does it feel like, hey, this is we still got it? Because in Josh Heupel, you just mentioned that it was disrespectful to leave him out of the top 5 best head coaches in the last 5-10 years. So I think this is a big statement game for him. Is he going to be able to continue the success? Because that's everything in college football. That's why Nick Saban was so great. That's why Kirby Smart's been great at Georgia. It's you don't keep these guys for 10 years. You get them for 2, 3, 4 years at best, and then you got to do it all over again. So he's already, he thought he had a quarterback last year, and now he's gone. So are you a legit head coach, Josh Heupel? Because if you are, we're going to find out a lot this season, and specifically Week 1. How are they going to look? They should go out there and dominate Syracuse, and I think if they don't, it might be a little bit of disappointment. But again, they're young, they're new. I'm not saying it's unheard of if they go out and struggle a little bit, but if Josh Heupel is a serious top 5 head coach, which I think he is, I agree with you on that. Then I am expecting success from Tennessee this year. Maybe not a national championship, but definitely success. And I think they should be fighting for one of those spots. And it starts right there with Syracuse.
And I think the last thing, I guess, before we move on to the marquee game of the week is Tennessee last year struggled really. They struggled really bad against the deep ball, and we saw some weaknesses in their passing defense. So even though I do think McCoy is one of, if not the best cornerback in all of college football right now, Syracuse is an air it out team. Like I said, their quarterback last year had, I think, the most passing yards in the NCAA. I could be wrong about that, but he was up there, and they air it out. That is their offense. They still have the same coordinator and stuff, so that I imagine still going to be their game plan. So that'll let us see, if Tennessee kind of filled some of those holes in the secondary as well.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's another good one for all the Tennessee fans listening. I'm living in Tennessee. You're living in Alabama, but we're opposite fans. So, y'all figure that one out. But hey, you got to shout out our teams because it's college football and we're back, baby. And the college football gods have just went ahead and gifted us one to start the year. I mean, I think for a lot of people, this is a national championship preview. I mean, there's probably 3, 4, I'd say 3 or 4 matchups that people are predicting the national championship to be, whether it's Ohio State, Penn State, Georgia, Texas. Like there's very few that we're expecting, but this one right off, I think you actually might have even predicted this one in our first podcast on our way too early predictions. But right out the bat, man, Texas versus Ohio State, it does not get any better than this. I am so excited. I cannot wait to see Julian saying starting for Ohio State, coming off the national championship, but they're a new team. They lost a lot of pieces last year, as does every national championship team. And then Texas, Arch Manning, they lost a lot of pieces in the draft, specifically at the wide receiver position. So these are the top dogs. I mean, these are, I don't know I hadn't quite looked at the preseason rankings, but what, number 1, number 2, at least 1 versus 3, something like that. They're up there. And this is an awesome, 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 awesome first week game.
Yeah. So this is at Ohio State. They play really well at home. Their fans are going to be roaring coming off a national championship. And then again, this being maybe the preview of the next national championship. Texas, the fans are going to be active during this one. It's going to be a great game to watch. But the Longhorns and Ohio State, they lost. I was looking it up while you were talking. They lost a combined of 26 players in the 2025 NFL draft. So they both lost a lot in the draft. 26 is a lot, but they definitely restocked. Everybody's, like you said, Julian saying everybody's excited to see him. Everybody's excited to see Archie Manning. I think Ohio State lost a little bit more on defense than Texas did. So if I had to lean one way, same way with the national championship prediction is I'm going to lean Texas on this one because I think they got fewer questions defensively. Their 2 pass rushers are going to give Julian Sayin a hard time, who I think is capable, obviously, of making plays with his feet. So I'll have to watch out for that. But I'll give a I'll give my prediction to Texas here. But man, you're not lying. The gods definitely bless this. This is I couldn't think of a better way to start out the college football year with another SEC versus Big Ten matchup, and not only that, but possibly the two best teams from each conference right out the gate.
Oh yeah.
It's going to be a fun one.
Yeah, and and yeah, SEC Big Ten, like that's what college football has become. With all due respect to the ACC and the Big 12, it's SEC versus Big Ten, and everybody's saying SEC's lost their footing, and obviously with the last two national championships coming out of the Big Ten, and you got Penn State and Notre Dame. Of course, Notre Dame just needs to go ahead and hop in the Big Ten. Not going to go down that road, but I kind of group them with them. But Texas has really come into the SEC and they've kind of been carrying us. Georgia slipped up, Alabama's figuring things out, Tennessee, but Texas is that top tier golden child of the SEC right now. It should be their conference to win. Same with Ohio State and the Big Ten should be their conference to win. I think there's more. I agree with you. I think there is more stability. Arch has been there for what this is his third year. He's going to be a junior. He's played in some games, so there is some stability there, even though he hasn't been the starter. He knows the system. They know him. And I think that's going to play a huge factor. Julian Sayin just got to Ohio State last year or like this year or whatever. And so this is his first year. He's still kind of figuring things out. So I think Ohio State might have a little bit of a slow start to the season. And to come out against Texas week one, obviously, is just a very, very tall task to take on. Love Steve Sarkisian. I think when we talk about greatest head coaches, Steve Sarkisian has really made his home there in Texas. I think he's a great fit. He's a great coach. But yeah, I'm with you. I'm leaning Texas in this game. I think it's going to be very close. I think Texas comes out hot. I think they might come out with like a 14-point lead, and then it kind of teeters back and forth for a little bit. Maybe it gets tied up at one point. But I think if not that we've done this for any of the other games, but for like a score prediction, I'm thinking somewhere along the lines of like 38 to 31 Texas. I think Texas, like I said, the continuity on that team, they feel a little more mature. I think Ohio State's got some figuring out to do. So I think Texas goes in to the horseshoe and steals one in week one.
I'm with you about around the same kind of score prediction, probably I'd say, 35, 28, 31, 28, something like that, Texas. I'm worried about like I said, that pass rush coming out of Texas, and how Julian Sayin's going to handle it with a newer offense. I mean, they lost both their running backs. They do still have Jeremiah Smith, who is obviously, he's always in that conversation, just top two best wide receivers in the NCAA. Him and Ryan Williams are kind of the two wide receivers everybody looks at. So I think, he's obviously going to be a safety blanket for Julian Sayin if he needs it. And I don't know anything about their running backs. I'm sure they have all the hype in the world around them. They're probably 2 5-stars that run 3 840s and look like DK Metcalf and cost $9 million a piece. So I'm not
Yeah.
I'm not super concerned about their restocking, but they did have to restock, I think, a little bit more than Texas. And
Mhm. Well, and on top of that, looking at Texas' schedule, they have Texas, then they kind of have three cupcake games, but then they go right into the weeds, man. They got Florida, Oklahoma, Kentucky. I'll throw them in. Mississippi. Any SEC game is going to be big, but specifically Florida, Oklahoma, and they play Georgia and Texas A&M and Arkansas. But all the SEC games are tough. But they have a tough schedule, and I foresee them at least losing one of those games. But you lose against Ohio State and maybe you slip up two. Now you're at a 3 loss. That's
yeah,
so that I think this is a really big one for Texas to come out and win. Ohio State's schedule is a little bit easier. Like I said, they can kind of lose this one, and I don't think that I mean, they play Illinois, which is supposed to be good. They do play Penn State. That's going to be a huge game, and then they got Michigan. So, but really, Penn State and Michigan. So as long as they beat one of them, Ohio State's, if they lose against Texas, they're a two-loss team. Again, that's if they slip against one of those two teams. If they did, it would probably be Penn State. I think Ohio State's going to break that Michigan streak and beat them this year. But again, that's always a tough one. So they have a little bit easier of a road than Texas. So I think this is a bigger game for Texas to go out there and win week one to kind of set themselves up for success for the rest of the year. And I think they do that. But this is just a huge, huge matchup. You could not have asked for a better week one game.
Yeah, I am excited for this one, no doubt.
The one thing that I am just baffled by is that you make this game, right? I mean, this is the game. Football's back. We got Ohio. I mean, how awesome is that, right? And then you put it at 11 o'clock. Why would you put that game at that needs to be a 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock window under the bright lights, prime time game. Like, why would you put it at 11 o'clock? As big of a matchup as that is.
Yeah, it should be prime time and televised like the president's giving a speech. All news channels have to halt this on the TV. I mean, this is going to be must-watch TV. They need to
100%.
interrupt American Idol, throw it up on the TV. It's every
Yeah.
channel should just be Texas, Ohio State at 6 p.m. on the dot.
That's yeah, so a little upset by that, but hey, it doesn't, I mean, it takes away a little bit of the game, but still an awesome matchup. Just would have loved to see that in that primetime game. But again, I'm glad that we kind of covered everything. I know the NFL has an amazing slate, and obviously, as we just went over, college football has an awesome, awesome slate. So football is back. We are just, I mean, days away at this point from college football starting their regular season games. We're about a month out from the NFL kicking off their regular season. So I just thought it'd be fun to highlight some of these matchups, talk about them. I'm sure we'll talk about them more as the weeks, go on and whatnot. But super, super excited. I know everybody's excited. The weather's cooling down, kind of. I got fall decorations in my house. I don't give a shit. I was like, we're just going to go ahead and dive into it. So, yeah, I couldn't hold my excitement back. I thought this was a great topic this week to go ahead and discuss some of these matchups. I know we wanted to get into some fantasy football, maybe do a mock draft. I think that's probably a good thing for maybe next week, next podcast, as we get a because we're still about 2-3 weeks away from draft time. I know our draft is set for the 24th of August.
Yep.
So we still got some time to dive deeper into fantasy, and I think that'd be a great point for next week. But man, I had a lot of fun diving into these week one matchups with you. That was fun.
I agree. Yeah, and the mock draft's going to take probably a full podcast because I kind of wanted to go through it, and then as we make our picks, and if we fly through one mock draft really quickly, we could even run another one and kind of talk through different. We can start out like doing the picks that we specifically have in your league, and then after that, we can kind of randomize our picks and kind of talk the audience through some of the reasons why we're picking who we are at certain rounds and whatnot. So I think that probably fills up a whole podcast right there. So I agree with you.
Yeah, yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, needless to say, just overwhelmed with joy and excitement that we're back. We're here. I'm trying to savor every little moment because I know we're gonna blink and we're gonna be in the middle of the season and it's gonna be like, damn, we just started. So, soaking it all in right now. I'm super stoked for fantasy. And I can't wait to have that conversation next podcast. I think that one's gonna be a lot of fun. Yeah, I think we'll be able to dive deep into some really interesting conversations.
Yeah, and I want to know what your picks are going to be come draft day so that I can.
You can steal them. Yeah, no,
yeah,
I'm not.
exactly.
I ain't telling shit because that's I've been doing mock drafts online with other players and stuff, and man, I think I got down. I know who I want in each round. I have about 3 or 4 guys of like, okay, if they're here, I'm taking one of these. Like, I know my picks, and if one of my guys is gone or if all my guys are gone, I'm gonna be very upset. So I'm not giving away nothing. So I am curious how we're gonna navigate giving advice and talking about this without.
I don't mind. I know that like we're both gonna have pretty much the same opinion on a lot of things, and you're gonna have special picks that you're excited about, and I probably the way I play fantasy is even if you're excited about somebody that kind of flies under the radar, I've probably already heard about them one, and I've already kind of decided that I'm either for that guy or I'm not, because I'm like you. I've looked up everything. I've did the mock draft, so I also have a big list in my head. They probably match up, so I don't think we need to be too worried about sharing ideas. And if they don't match up, then chances are we've at least heard the hype about the guy we're talking about and decided that we have another reason why we don't want that guy. So
For sure. But yeah, either way, that's going to be a fun one. So I'm looking forward to that.
no doubt. But anyways, that has been the Front Porch Podcast.